You know, if your name's Oscar Piastri, Grand Prix was pretty easy.
You're feeling pretty good, Adam. You're feeling pretty good.
Bahrain was a nice little parade for you. But if your name is not Oscar Piastri, then you had an interesting afternoon yesterday, or evening, depending upon where you watched the show from. And you know what? It honestly was at the head of some pretty amazing sports yesterday. Great race in Bahrain, great Masters. There was some hockey last night. You know, Tim, there's a lot going on, and it's an exciting time of year. Baseball as well.
Yeah, the NBA ended. We know who's playing what and playing where and who's in the play-in. And Rory McIlroy stuff was cool.
Did you watch it?
I did. So I watched the final. As soon as the IndyCar race ended, I switched over because I was getting I went on SportsCenter and I was talking with Kara. And she was like, "Oh my God, you got to watch this Masters." I'm like, "Is it really good right now?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay, after the IndyCar race, I'm going to switch it over." So I got done doing SportsCenter, finished watching the IndyCar race, switched over to the Masters, sitting on the couch. And I was like, "Oh my God, Rory McIlroy might win this. I can't believe this. This is awesome."
Oh, it
goes to a playoff. I mean, fantastic stuff. You can't make that up, right?
And Justin Rose's second playoff. Remember his first one, 2017 against Sergio Garcia. Just unreal. He's a part of two historic moments, and he's not on the winning side of them yet.
Right? Exactly.
All right, now let's talk a little bit about Red Bull, because they're the biggest story. They were slow. They apparently had according to many sources, Ted Kravitz even said that he saw Max's manager arguing with Marco after the race, and then he stormed off. And Kravitz said that Helmut was just sort of standing there taking it. And from sources, the team held an impromptu meeting with key personnel at the track, including Christian Horner, Helmut Marko, Pierre Wache, and, of course, Paul Monahan. Marko in the press has called this very alarming. If in case you've forgotten, Verstappen was passed by Ocon and passed by Andrea Kimi Antonelli and Lewis Hamilton. He fell to ninth. He made some progress after ditching the hards because that seemed like a bad strategy choice. And was able to finish in sixth place. Yuki Tsunoda took ninth. But, Tim, for Red Bull, these are not acceptable results.
Not at all. I mean, that car, you could really see with this track and their car, all of the issues that they have really come to light. It was kind of like all happened at once, and they've got a lot of problems with that car, obviously, that Max has been painting over, obviously, with his talent, but nothing he could do about it this weekend. The car literally was undrivable. Like he was saying in the media, and I had heard from a few other folks that they literally did every different kind of setup that they could with that car. They turned it upside down, he said, and that they could not find a setup that would work. And to see how they did on different tire compounds was interesting too, because like you had mentioned, when they jumped onto a harder compound, I mean, the car it was a totally different car. It was really interesting to see. And that happened to a couple of other teams as well when it comes to the tire compound. And we can get into that a little bit later when we talk about McLaren and Mercedes and Ferrari. But for Max, I mean, I think he did everything he could to capture as many points as he could, but oh my God, Adam, it was just a dreadful weekend for them. And as for the conversation between Max's manager and Helmut Marko, apparently that did happen. So,
and what do you think Max's manager would have even said?
I could think of a few words, but
get it together. Because here's what Marko
PG-13,
Here's what Marko told the reporters. He said it's a very difficult day for Red Bull. That's obvious to all of us. We have to get as soon as possible performance in the car again, and also standards like pit stops have to work. The car is not the fastest, and the pit stops are not working. That is not acceptable. We have a lot of problems. The main problem is balance and grip. And out of this, I guess brakes have come up as well. Normal procedure for a pit stop is not working, so one issue comes after another. And Verstappen, for his part of it, said, everything went wrong that could go wrong. The pace is just very bad. We have our problems. Even if you win a race, that doesn't go away, so that we got to keep discussing and trying to improve. So obviously that's Max trying to be a good team player there.
Yeah.
But, one of the major things, Tim, that was so obvious, forget the how the car feels, how pointy it is, whatever else you could muster. The fact that they can't even get a green light on their own pit stop.
Oh my God!
So I have to understand this, because I am not a person that's ever driven an open wheel car and gone for a pit stop. When they pulled in to their stops, right? You've got your guy at the front who jacks the car up.
Yeah.
You've got everybody comes in with the wheels, whatever. The guy at the front then moves to the side, releases the car, and then there is a red light, green light, and the green light goes off, and then you can go.
Yep.
And Red Bull's green light overhead just didn't go, so Max and Yuki would pause for an extra couple seconds.
Yes, that's correct. And so I think they ended up reverting to like a handheld system where a guy
Which is
literally
what they used to do, right?
Yeah, well, they used to use like lollipops as well. Those things worked pretty well.
Yeah.
But like obviously the electronic stuff has been working pretty flawlessly too. But essentially, the driver wasn't getting the signal as to, it's time to go. And it's like everything's happening so fast within that pit stop that, for the driver, it's like the driver can't like look around to see like, okay, all 4 tires are on, it's time to go. It's like, no, you pull in, stare at the light, it's going to switch within like 2 seconds, and then you're gone again. So you don't really have time to do much else. So when that light's not going off, he gets a radio to him saying like, hey, like we got a problem with the light, just go. And so that's going to cost you. And then I think Max also had a problem with the right front.
He did.
Being changed as well. I wonder, Adam, if these things would happen if Jonathan Wheatley had been there.
What do you think Jonathan Wheatley's absence is bringing to this? Because instantly everybody's going to go,
well, Adam, that's part of like Jonathan Wheatley. That would have been in his wheelhouse, right? It's back then it was all about Jonathan Wheatley working with the crew, the team, everything, timing, pit stops, all of it. You name it. That was his sort of job. He was like the coach. He's like the head coach. Like that's basically what Jonathan Wheatley was there. Like he was a big part of that engine that made it drive. And so not having him there and got to hear from him in Sauber clothing this weekend as well.
Yeah.
His second race with the team. He's pretty happy about where he's at, that's for sure, and enjoying the process of working with this team. But yeah, no, that's it. Like we had said before, Adam, huge loss for Red Bull. Just a huge loss. Jonathan Wheatley not being there anymore.
Raymond Vermeulen is Max's manager.
Yeah.
What do you think Raymond Vermeulen wants Red Bull to do right now? Like, because here's the thing with Formula
Get a better car.
Well, but you always say, hey, the car's bad. Well, that's because it's taken 6 months, 8 months, a year, 18 months, maybe in some cases, to get to be this bad. Is he trying to wake them up to the fact that they're not 2022 or 2023 anymore? Or is he trying for something shorter term? Because what I'm trying to understand is, obviously, this is a problem they didn't take seriously last year. Sergio Perez has been pointing it out for a while. Max could paper it over, as we know. We know all that. If Max's manager is yelling at you, he's going to need something like sooner than 18 months from now in terms of results. What does Red Bull do? It's not easy to just turn a car around.
No, you can't, because you also have the 2026 regulation that's on the horizon. And so you have to, for them having to spend the time wisely as what they want to do in the wind tunnel. Mm-hmm. Like, do they want to be dumping their resources into this car, or do they want to be dumping a lot of their resources into next year's car? That's a decision they're going to have to make, and same with a lot of the other teams as well. But for Red Bull and keeping Max happy, right? Like, you got to give him some competitive machinery, because I think he's right there in the drivers' championship, right? Yeah. Like he's hanging around. He's third, 69 points. Lando's leading with 77. So 8-point swing easily can happen now with the way F1 is at the moment. So, Adam, I think they've got a lot of thinking to do about what what do they want from this car this year, and what are they prepared to do to go after it. Mm-hmm. And then their wind tunnel at the same time, like it's not the greatest. Like it's I don't want to say it's outdated, but there are different things with their wind tunnel that they just cannot do that other teams can at the moment.
So they're going to have to invest in that then. You can't be a top runner.
Yeah, definitely. Like if there's so many different things they need to do there, but at the same time, it's like they're investing as well in their powertrain side, like because they got to build engines now.
Yep.
And
did they take on too much?
We don't know where they're at with that. They've lost a lot of staff, good staff. They could possibly have taken on too much, but at the same time, Adam, it's like you need to. I guess what I'm trying to say is that they probably either need to commit to this season or just forget about it. Like, I think that's...
What do you think they'll do?
I mean, if it's me, I want to keep my number one driver, happy.
Yeah.
I'm going to invest in this year's car and see if we can get him that championship.
How long... Like, okay, I know this is one weekend where Max is finishing 6th and Yuki's 9th, right? A lot of teams would kill for that. But it's not Red Bull that would kill for that. How long into this season before, or what would need to happen for Red Bull to go, you know what? We're going to wave the red flag on this one. What we have is what we have, and we got to focus on next year.
Right.
When do you start to see teams doing that?
I would say like around June, July.
Okay. So we're going to start to see teams go, okay.
I think so.
This is what we can get out of this, and that's what it is going to be.
Well, yeah, because I think they've got a better understanding of like long term, what more can they get from the car, and then you got to weigh that with like, okay, we can get like a half of a tenth if we configure a new component for this, and then you got to think about the amount of time you got to spend with it in the wind tunnel and CFD, and then you're taking that time away from the time you could be using and spent on next year's regulation. So that's what teams are having to decide, right? It's so wherever they finished in the championship last year. So for Red Bull, P3. Mm-hmm. So they're allotted a certain amount of wind tunnel and CFD testing time in the wind tunnel and in CFD time. And you have to apply that time to this season. But you can also apply that time to next year's regulation. So you can be building your car for next year, like right now. Like you can start that process. I mean, teams have already started it. They started it back in like January, but you have to measure how much you want to give to it, and you have to measure how much you want to give to this season as well.
Right. Well, it's going to be an interesting one. We'll see how they bounce back.
It's a balancing act, right? Yeah, it's a balancing act.
And by the way, they always bounce back. And Jeddah next week, Red Bull is, that's the thing about Red Bull. They are a championship team. It's not like there's a mentality issue in the Red Bull garage in terms of winning. So it is surprising to see them not getting their pit stops right, but it does that at least feels like a correctable issue. And Max at Jeddah, I think, probably pretty scary, right?
Yeah, but Adam, you have to remember, it's like, I think for Max, he has to capitalize on the weekends like a Suzuka.
Yes.
Like when he is in that position, he needs to make sure that he's getting max points, like the maximum amount that he can get. When it's a 6th place day, it's a 6th place day, and that's the best that he can do. You got to be really smart about how he's racing other drivers, how aggressive can he get with other drivers. And I think over the years, he's actually been really good at that. And so that's what he needs to do if he wants to try and win this year's championship. Because I think they are going to go to other tracks like a Bahrain, where you are going to have problems. Maybe not as severe as Bahrain, because again, Bahrain's like an outlier track. But that's where Max will have to make that difference, right? So,
last question on Red Bull: is it true that they were slower than Alpine overall this weekend?
Within yeah. So I think Carlos Sainz actually talked about this, but he was saying that GPS data was showing that the Alpine in medium speed, so medium fast and fast corners at Bahrain, the GPS tracking was showing that the Alpine was just as fast as McLaren.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not like straight line speed, right? That's cornering speed. But if you take that Renault engine out of the Alpine and you, I don't know, dump a Mercedes into it, I mean, you're probably looking at a car that could have been on the podium, like a podium finishing car for sure.
Yep. Okay.
So that tells you where they're at with what they've got.
Right. Okay. So, and we'll talk about Alpine a little bit later. I want to talk about the exact opposite of Red Bull, and that's Mr. Consistency, Mr. George Russell.
Wait, you want to talk about Oscar Piastri and Lando, or do you want
we're going to talk about them later.
We're
going to talk about them later. I think that it's interesting that they are. I mean, I've got a lot to say on Lando's weekend, but Oscar's weekend is sort of like, hey, he was great Saturday, he was great Sunday. Not much to say. But George Russell gets his third podium in 4 appearances, and he's also not finished below P5 this year. P3, P5, and P2. He is doing extremely well in terms of where he's at in the Drivers' Championship, just 6 points behind Max Verstappen. Piastri and Norris are the only guys ahead of him beyond that. Let's talk about George Russell's season so far. And he's racing a car, Tim, that on the track is starting to shut down.
Okay, so I'll start there, I guess. So George had a very interesting race. In my opinion, I honestly think this was one of George Russell's greatest Grand Prix drives, like so far in his career. He was fantastic, considering the amount of pressure that he was under from Lando Norris behind.
Yeah.
And then obviously having to try and keep the soft tire alive for as what did he call it? Audacious.
Yeah, 24 laps on a soft. That's audacious. But isn't it interesting that Lando was like, he's like, I don't know what he's worried about. He'll be fine in the track, during the race.
No, the tire was gone, man. That thing was toast. Like there wasn't much left of that thing. So not only was he having to there's a massive tire offset between himself and Lando Norris, obviously with the medium lasting longer and just a better compound, it looked like for some drivers. He's also having to deal with, it looked like electronic issues with the steering wheel. Mercedes at the time, they weren't too sure what was going on with it.
Yeah.
So it could be like a wiring harness or wiring loom is what Toto Wolff had said. But they weren't 100% certain what was going on. But essentially, he was dealing with brake-by-wire failure. And brake-by-wire failure is, he'd get to the corner where he has to start braking, and the brake pedal would either be there for him to slow the car down, or it would go straight to the floor.
Okay.
Never knew what he was going to get. But that, Adam, is one of the scariest things a driver can ever face is brake failure. That is a driver's nightmare. That is the one thing that drivers are scared of. It is that. It is like the brakes not being there when they need them the most, which is pretty much everywhere, every entry to a corner almost. So for George having to deal with that, and then the team was worried that because of the brake failure, they were going to lose the steering computer, so the steering wheel, the dashboard, the shift lights, the gear shifts. So even
they
George
ended up losing control of
gears.
DRS too.
Lost control of DRS. He was hitting the radio button and the DRS was opening like that. That's how messed up the steering wheel was. And so they were giving him instructions going down the back straightaway at 300 kilometers an hour, giving him instructions on how to reset the steering wheel.
Wow.
And he only had a couple shots at it. So if he screwed it up, he was toast. There was just no way he was holding on to P2. Would have gotten passed by Lando. He would have gotten passed by probably others as well.
Yep.
So I think when we talk about George Russell and this weekend, for me, I'm never going to forget this one because this was some of his finest Grand Prix driving. He was absolutely excellent, trying to manage all of that and keep Lando Norris behind him while on a soft tire that was, literally toast. It was impressive, Adam. Really impressive stuff.
Now, it's interesting, Tim, because obviously he qualifies second, he finishes second. Same thing happened last week. He qualified fifth, he finished fifth. How come he didn't get a penalty for that accidental opening? I mean, whether or not the car was malfunctioning, that's sort of not the other driver's fault. That is, what was it that the stewards determined? Yeah, you know what? It didn't give him an advantage.
Well, he was hitting the talkback button. He wasn't hitting the DRS button. So that's number one. The other part of it was he actually had lost time when it closed. So it was open for I don't even know, like a tenth of a second. It was really a short amount of time that it was open. So it was open and it was all of a sudden closed quickly. He didn't gain anything, but he actually lost a bit of time for it. So they were kind of just like, it was a malfunction. Yeah, and it's like, we're still trying to figure out, did it have something to do with the transponder? Because in our group chat, we were talking about the transponder.
They couldn't, even on the broadcast, the transponder wasn't working.
Yeah, not sure if that was an FIA thing or if that was something wrong with a few of the cars, because there were other cars that actually, it looked like were suffering from the DRS opening as well. So I think George having this type of a drive, Adam, puts him in the conversation of the Drivers' Championship.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you next, because what I see from George Russell this year is a very relaxed and confident guy. Like, you could tell when George is frustrated. He wears his emotion on his sleeve. There's been times where, he's been on that pit wall. I can remember specifically his crash out. I think it was in Singapore in 2024?
Yeah.
Or 2023?
2023, yeah.
Yeah, he was in the lead, and then Sainz obviously ended up winning. That was the only time that anybody won besides Max.
I think George was fighting with Lando for a podium spot.
That's what, okay.
And Lando had, sort of scrubbed the wall a bit, and it looked like George was following him, and he did a little more than scrub the wall. So
right. And, he was in tears, right? He was so frustrated.
Oh, yeah.
And that happens. George this year just seems to be having a really, really good, easy time of it. Is it the car? Is it the George? Is it both? What's gone right here to create this sort of, first four races, I think probably going better than Mercedes could have hoped?
Well, and then also add on top of that contract year.
Yes,
this is a big year for George.
Yeah,
he needs to perform. So under pressure on that end as well. I think he performs really well when he's under a good amount of pressure. In terms of off track, contract years, he usually does really well. We're seeing it. Also has a good handling car. If you go back and listen to our preseason preview pods, you could hear me say on there that, I've heard some rumors. Toto's pretty happy about the car they have for this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a reason I said that. So, I think they've got a car they can build on, and they can make it quick. I mean, everybody is going to bring updates and upgrades and all that kind of stuff. And I think for Mercedes, they have to bring the right ones that are going to work. They have to execute on every single one to sort of still close the gap to McLaren. But if they're able to do that, Adam, which I think that they can, because we have seen big swings when it comes to performance, and we'll see what happens when we get to Spain, because that could change some things as well. But I honestly can tell you, Adam, that George Russell is in contention for this championship.
Okay.
And I honestly think that, if he's able to just hang around until the team's able to discover some upgrades that allows them to, I would say, have a better race tire. The one of their problems is the amount that their car uses the tire in the race.
Right.
So and then the good part about it though is that it performs in hot conditions, where last year it only performed in cooler conditions.
Right.
The car did way better in cooler conditions, but now they've got a car that's doing both, and so that's the secret sauce, right? That is so important for these teams, and they're only looking for tiny little pieces of performance to add to the car. Right? You're not looking for like massive updates. You're looking for tiny little components, tiny little things that are going to help the car, and just eke out a few more tenths if you can find it. Like, that's what you're looking for. So small details now, because the regulation has been stable for so long. But yeah, Adam, like, I honestly think like George can have a shot at winning this thing if Mercedes can nail some updates for sure.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff, right? I mean, he's kept himself in it, right? When you take a look at the driver's standing, like he's done what he needed to do to keep himself around.
Yes. And it's interesting when you look at laps led. Piastri 107, Norris 56, Verstappen 45, Antelli 10, Leclerc 3, Hamilton 1, Albon 1. George has not led a lap. And yet here he is. And by the way, this is it's worth mentioning Kimi Antonelli, his first race in F1 without points. I think not bad start for him.
Yeah, he's been pretty good, eh? I think for his race in particular, I think it was like they wanted to turn it into a 3-stopper.
Yeah,
that's why when they threw him on the soft tire and everybody's just, on his last stint, everybody's like, "What are you doing?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
There's a long way to go here. We still got a lot of laps left." It's like, what? Why are you doing that? So, I think the safety car wasn't their friend in this race, and when it came out, Kimi having to hold off a lot of quicker drivers who are on newer tires behind him. But I think also Antonelli has a little bit to learn in this respect, and that just comes with time and driving, is like not taking too much out of the tire too soon.
Right.
That's
and that's a rookie driver.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
By the way, he still sits 6th in the drivers' championship.
Yeah, very impressive. He has been a very impressive rookie.
Kid's 18 years old. And when he passed Lewis Hamilton, I was like, holy moly.
I know.
That was quite the moment. Now, speaking of Ferrari, they had a, quote, good day. There was some concern that their new parts weren't working as well through FP1 and FP2. And again, Bahrain's a weird course because I'm just fixing my microphone here. Bahrain's a weird course because the track wear on the tires is insane. The heat's insane, and when they're doing free practice, it's not the same time that they'd be doing a race. At least part of it. So it's hard to get a read on certain things. And there was some thought that if their new parts didn't work out in this race, there could be some doubts about their development curve, which is a major problem, Tim, because development curves are months and years long. But it seems like they did okay. Seems like it was an okay car for them. Hey, listen, Tim and I were tired of bad T-shirts, okay? We're T-shirt wearers, aren't we, Tim?
We are. I love my T-shirts, just not today. It's a little cold, so I got my sweater on.
Yeah, we got T-shirts on underneath, and the one I'm wearing is the tailored fit, true classic men's T-shirt. Here's the thing.
Looks good on you, Adam. Looks good.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Sometimes, when you're wearing a shirt as a man and you're trying them on in the store, they sort of fit like a lampshade, right? Yeah. They fit, and it's like it skirts out at your waist, and it's weird. And so what True Classic did was they're like, we're going to accentuate your chest and your arms because you got thick arms, hopefully. And if you're like me and you don't have thick arms, it still makes it look like you do. And it also kind of covers your body in the right way. It's a T-shirt made for a man's body, Tim. And I think that's key. That's right. They also have short sleeve comfort knit button-ups. They've got these great swim trunks, which I absolutely love. They've got a whole bunch of things at True Classic. And by the way, we want to give you a discount. So whether you're bundling up for the cold or getting ready for spring, level up your style with clothes that actually fit. Just go to our exclusive link, trueclassic.com/dangle, D-A-N-G-L-E. That's trueclassic.com/dangle. Shop now and elevate your wardrobe. Check it out.
Yeah, I had mentioned this in our post-qualifying podcast. So they brought a new floor to their car for this weekend. Heard from Charles Leclerc quite a few times over the weekend, but one of the main things he kind of kept talking about was the fact that this is a floor that did help them this weekend, but it's going to help them more when they get to Saudi Arabia. They've squeezed as much performance out of the car this weekend as they can get. Like, the car doesn't have much performance left in it. But again, I have to compare that with what the track is like.
Yes.
So you're squeezing as much performance out of the car for a track like Bahrain, which is, again, sort of an outlier track because of the pavement, corner configurations, the heat. There's so much that goes into this thing. You're running the car at different times of the day, and it's giving you different things. So when you get to Saudi Arabia, different type of a pavement, we'll see how they do there, and we can gauge it better on where the car is overall. But, Adam, it's a positive sign for the team that they do have something here that they can build upon this season. I think the thing is getting Lewis Hamilton up to speed and getting him on a setup that he's going to be happy with using, because I'm not too sure if he's following what Charles Leclerc is doing at the moment. It doesn't sound like he is. He probably should revisit that and see if it's something that he can get to work for him. And if he can't, then he's going to have to find another way. But I think at the moment, Charles has unlocked what the car needs to go quick. And that's as fast as that thing was going to go in Bahrain. The tire offset stuff was interesting when going from, what can the car do with the soft? What can it do with the medium? What can it do with the hard? The range of performance was quite fascinating to see. And I think, Adam, I think Leclerc did really well to keep Norris at bay for as long as he could, while running the hard tire. And obviously Lando was on the
I think
medium.
Leclerc did George Russell some big favors.
Huge favors, for sure. Obviously that allowed, Lando had to use a lot of the tire to try and get past Leclerc. But
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it was good defense from Charles. Like it was a good drive. It was a really good drive from him. So yeah, Adam, I think it's not all doom and gloom down at Ferrari. I know you and I had talked about this in studio on Thursday, where literally said, like, this is going to be a big weekend for them. This is going to be a weekend where it was going to be like, hey, do we have a car here we can build upon, or do we not? And so, yeah, it looks like they've got something that they can work with. So that's a positive for the team.
Lewis said this about it. He said the feeling is night and day race to qualifying. He said, of course, hard afternoon. Progress is not easy out there. Everyone is so close. The car is sometimes quite hard to drive, and I'm really working hard to adapt my driving style, so that's what I've really got to do. Also, get the setup where I need it. We've got a much better setup where I moved to where Charles was, and he didn't move away from that all weekend. I think it's just getting confidence in that and adjusting to the driving style of it. But the team did a great job with the pit stops and the strategy. And I think, we're seeing that with a couple of the major driver changes that happened this year. We see it with Carlos Sainz a little bit in terms of where he's had, I think, finishes that he probably wishes he could do better with. Mm-hmm. And then, yesterday I thought, Carlos Sainz specifically had a great qualifying, but then obviously he has a chip taken out of his side pod and his race is over. So we didn't really get to see how that finished. Lewis finishing fifth seems like a strong basis point. And the fact that they're not happy there, to me, says Ferrari's got a lot more to give, and Bahrain is an outlier track, right? It's just a weird track.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, definitely. Adam, I think, did you see Carlos's pass on Lewis in the race?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I did.
Oh,
man, it's crazy.
That was a good pass, but I thought Lewis did drive a really good race. I think he was extremely happy with the team. You could hear it on the radio, on his pit in, but it was a polar opposite on the Saturday when he was driving in, apologizing to the team. This time he was congratulating the team coming in. So clearly he's found something, and that's good. That's good for him, because now he can have a little more confidence in moving forward. Still learning the steering wheel too, Adam.
Of course. Yeah.
He's still got a lot of stuff going on at the moment. So it's like I had said, it takes time. It takes time to learn these things. Different DNA of a car, different type of brakes, just everything, man. Just, it's a lot.
Yeah. Now, Lando Norris had what I would call a gritty afternoon. Grittiness comes from
call it something else, but yeah.
Staying in it when you don't have it. Lando didn't have it this weekend. Lando didn't have it in qualifying. Lando didn't have it in free practice. And Lando didn't have whatever it was during the race. And yet, a third place finish, a really great start that put him into that third place. Had he not had that 5-second penalty, this is a 1-2 for McLaren for sure. And yeah, McLaren. Listen, Lando made some mistakes this weekend. He really did not have his best. But to get a third place finish when you're not feeling your best, I feel like is a win in and of itself. That he probably should come away happy from this. But one of the things that hurt McLaren last year in the Drivers' Championship was too many mistakes and also not committing to the same or to the one driver to get it done. This year doesn't seem like that's going to be a problem as much in terms of commitment. Lando is in first. Oscar's just behind him. Tim, are the mistakes going to cost Lando? Because it doesn't seem like Oscar's really making them.
They definitely will, just because of how close this championship is starting to become.
Yep.
Lando wasn't happy with the car all weekend, Adam. Like, if you go back and you look at last year's car, the last year's car had a bigger operating window, we'll call it, where easier for the driver to get the car exactly where they wanted it to so they could extract performance. With this year's car, it has a smaller operating window. A lot of that has to do with, these cars get faster, you add more downforce to them, your window of performance narrows because of how close you got to get the car to the track.
Yep.
Ride height levels. So this weekend, Lando lost confidence in the car. Flat out. That's just what happened. It's just what happened. Losing confidence with the car in slow speed corners, losing confidence with the car in medium speed corners, and losing confidence with the car high speed corners. Just sort of all around. It just wasn't good. I think he did his best with having to deal with all that. And I will say this. He is a driver that is extremely hard on himself. I don't think he needs to be this hard on himself, and very publicly hard on himself. I don't necessarily think he needs to do that, but if he feels that that's what's going to allow him to extract more performance from himself, and that's the way that he needs to operate, then that's what he's got to do. But when you're not feeling as comfortable within the car or confident within the car, even when it's the quickest car, that's a problem. And you definitely are going to need to spend a lot of time with the engineering staff, with the team before Saudi Arabia, so they can get some confidence in the car back before heading there and jumping on that track. So you can get back in the swing of things. Because at the moment, he's not like flowing with the car. You can see it, you can hear it in his voice. He talks about it. And that's an issue, Adam. That's a huge issue, because then when you look at what Oscar Piastri is doing, it's a polar opposite thing. He doesn't have a problem with the car. He doesn't have a problem with getting it into the right sweet spot. Like, he even said afterwards, like, he's happy with this car. He really likes it. Very confident. There's not a lot of noise that rattles around in Oscar's head. He's a very cool, calm, and collected driver. He knows exactly what he needs, what he wants, and executes. Oscar is, like we've talked on the show, Adam, we've always said he's a future world champion. I think this year could be that championship that he gets. If Lando sort of continues to have inconsistencies, because when you want to win a driver's championship when it's this close, you have to be consistent everywhere you go. You just do if you want to win a driver's title, especially this year. Have to be consistent, have to be scoring the best points. You have to be getting the maximum out of every single session, out of yourself. It's going to be 9-10 months of hard work. That's what it's going to be, and that's what you have to do. And I think Lando knows that. He's prepared himself for that, and I think he gets disappointed when he doesn't have a great weekend, and that's normal. But yeah, it's sometimes when you hear him talking about it in the media, you're kind of just like, oh man,
you're really hard on yourself.
Yeah, but it's also like you're giving your competitors like information as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, sometimes almost a little too honest.
Which is nothing wrong with that. Look, hey,
hey, we like it in the media.
Yeah, we like it.
To compare and contrast, though, Oscar, like you said, was icy this weekend. Just perfect, basically all the way through. That's a tough competitor that Lando's facing.
Oh, yeah.
And I wonder about their relationship. They've always been extremely respectful of each other and that sort of thing. How icy between those two guys will it get in the garage if by, say, Monaco, they're within 5-6 points of each other like they are right now?
That's a good question. Let's start at the beginning of their relationship first. We'll start there because, I hear from the team quite often. And one of the things that is always repeated is their mutual respect for one another, both drivers. And when you look at, or when they look at the data of what each driver is doing, because they can see what each other are doing, they're very complementary of each other. So if Oscar's doing one thing in a corner and Lando is not, Lando is seeing that and trying to replicate what Oscar's doing. If Oscar sees what Lando is doing in a different corner and Lando's faster, Oscar's trying to take that on board and make himself do what Lando is doing so he can be just as fast as Lando in that corner. And so that's where the finer details are. It's like when you get to a track and you break it all down corner by corner by corner by corner, and then you start comparing yourself with your teammate in each corner and what are they doing, and you're learning from them and you're able to adapt what they are doing into your style. That's huge. That's massive. That pushes the whole team forward, right? In development, it pushes the whole team forward on track. In the garage, everybody works together well in that respect. But as the two drivers start to get closer in terms of corner by corner by corner by corner, and then that goes on to the racetrack into a race, and then you start to see how close they get, which they are going to, that's when you either are going to see McLaren, Andreas Stella, Zach Brown start to step in. And that's going to be interesting to see how they handle it, because it will happen, right? It will. We know it will. We've seen it.
The way it is.
It's just the way it is. That's, I think, what's going to be the difference maker is management. What are they going to do? What are they going to do when these two guys meet each other on track? Because Adam, I'm telling you right now, I don't see Oscar doing the Australia thing again.
Well, no, I don't think that's going to happen either. And I think both drivers have got to know that. I mean, the difference last year was Lando was miles ahead of Oscar. Now he's not. No. So I don't think that can happen anymore, right?
Heck, can. I don't know how you can. Mark Webber would blow up if.
Yeah. Well, Jeremy Clarkson is saying that Mark Webber told him that they've got to know, they've got a contract clause or something that prevents Oscar from having to do that this year or something like that. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if that's something you put in a contract or if every race driver ever is like that. I think that's probably more the second than the first, because it's not like McLaren's going to sign a deal where they're like, yeah, sure, just ignore us. That's fine. So, there's that part of it. So, Tim, I want to ask about the forgotten two teams who had mega success in this race. That's the double point scoring, currently fifth in the constructors, Haas Ferrari. Okay. And that includes Oliver Behrman, who went from 20th to 10th.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Amazing race. How is he not driver of the day?
I know, right? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, let's talk about Haas. Let's talk about what they were able to do with this race, and leave Alpine for now. We're going to get to them.
I would say great result for Esteban Ocon. We'll start with him, just because crashing the car in Q2 on Saturday. That was a big accident.
And really crashed.
Oh, he really crashed it.
That's an engineer's up all night problem.
That was a good one. If you're going to do it, you do it proper, right?
Yeah, wreck the car.
Yeah, you wreck it. So, definitely did that. I mean, I put out a list on Twitter of all of the parts and parameters that were changed on his car Saturday night leading into Sunday morning, and it was like a huge list.
Mm-hmm.
I think had a great race. Safety car obviously helped a lot, but man, he was able to fight with other drivers in front of him who were in better cars. Like the new floor that they've put on that race car has really done them a lot of good. Like, it's really worked. And you should have seen how happy Io Komatsu was at the end of this one. That guy was like happy. It was pretty cool to see this team have that much success at this track. But again, yes, I think the safety car really playing into that. Played into it as well for Ollie Behrman, but also had a great start. Like, Behrman that's where a lot of this sort of developed for him, was right off the start, making up as many spots as he could. And then obviously having to manage the tire, manage his race, who to fight with, who not to fight with, when to push, when not to push. Just a really smart drive by a rookie. Like, you could see that, this guy's been working hard in the sim and with the engineers and with learning this car. But Adam, like, he may be a rookie, but he really didn't seem like one on Sunday.
Yeah, no, he was poised, and obviously the qualifying thing was a disaster. I was really sort of, you're watching him climb throughout, and I'm really impressed with the drive, really impressed with the car.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like the car's doing things that Haas just could never do before.
Yeah.
It seems like they're scoring points intentionally. It's not, hey, somebody crashed, so we snuck in.
Yeah.
They're making it happen. It's exciting to see, and it's exciting to see the team grow. And Io Komatsu, I think, deserves an enormous amount of credit because of how this team has done since he left, or since Gunther Steiner has left. And I know that Gunther was a part of the development for last year's car, which was the previous year. But all that said, Io has continued that and signed a really, really good driver in Esteban Ocon. I think that was a really smart signing. And getting, the next up for Ferrari coming to his team rather than going to, say, like Sauber, I think is amazing. I think it's a really, really smart move. And I'm genuinely very impressed. And I think Io Komatsu is a guy that you watch where, you think about the big team principles, right? Your Andrea Stellas, your Toto Wolffs, your Christian Horners. Io Komatsu, one day, if he keeps this up, will be one of those guys. He'll be one of the titans in this sport.
Yeah,
just gotta,
agreed.
Especially with what he's doing with such a small outfit.
Yeah.
We know that they don't spend the same way as other teams do. We know they don't have access to the same resources, and yet look at them. Now, a team with access to all the resources, but was highly, highly, highly dysfunctional last year, hadn't scored a point going into this race, but Alpine have finally put points on the board. Pierre Gasly looked like he was going to finish sixth right up until the end where Max was able to get past him. Alpine had a car this weekend and could have had double points. Jack Doohan kind of missed out on it a little bit there. But Tim, both drivers have got to be a lot happier leaving this weekend than they were coming in.
I think for Gasly, just really just bringing that car to life at this track this weekend, I don't think anybody thought that they were going to be as competitive as they were. I don't even think they thought they were going to be this competitive either. Max obviously getting Pierre on the last lap. So many different things going into that. I mean, obviously Max charging the battery for as long as he could to harvest as much as he could to just blow by Gasly to get sixth place. Seventh, though, however, still a great result for him because, again, just kind of kept his nose in it, right? Just hung around, stayed around, showed why he's really talented driver. And then for Jack, I think, hearing from Oliver Oakes at the end of this one, very happy for Jack and the progress that he's made considering the ups and the downs that he's been suffering from so far this season. I think this weekend was really good for him. Safety car, played a huge role in his race in not helping him at all. Like, Jack really got done over by the safety car. And then having to start back up and try and hold off, like, I think it was about 5 or 6 other drivers who were behind him on fresh fresh tires, and he's on like old rubber. I mean, that's a really difficult thing to do. I'm surprised he didn't finish lower than where he was. I think he was like 14th or 15th finishing. That's what and then obviously he had that 5-second time penalty that was handed to him as well. That didn't help. Dropped him more for leaving the track. He'd already gotten the black and white flag, and then he left the track for track deletion on his last lap. And then so that's where he picked up that 5-second time penalty. But I think Jack's going to be safe at the team for the next few months.
Okay.
Sounds like he's earned some time, which is good. Good for him. I think that's going to alleviate some pressure as well for Jack, and I think he deserves it. I don't think it's been a smooth run for him to start. He was good in Australia, maybe not the race. And those are things you learn as a rookie when it comes to wet track. The mistake in, Suzuka, I mean, that's a huge error. But again, not getting a lot of track time because you handed the car over to your reserve driver at the time or your test driver at the time in free practice 1. So, not a ton of seat time there, and that's a difficult track to get to grips with, but knew Bahrain quite well, and I thought he did a good job, and I'm happy that he's going to be able to hang around for a few more months here.
One question before we go here.
We got questions, by the way.
We do got questions, but this one's an important one because I think people are looking at Fernando Alonso going, no points, really?
Yeah, we can talk about Aston Martin for sure.
Buddy wants to know on Twitter. It seems pretty clear that Aston Martin are spending most of their funds on the 2026 car based on current performance. What's your take, Tim?
Well, they haven't brought any updates to this car yet. They will. So that means they will be spending some money on this car. They have to, right? Like, you've got to keep up with everybody else's development. There will be a point where that car will stop being developed. But at the moment, it's trying to understand what they've done wrong, which I think they know now. But it's not like last year, where last year they would throw huge updates to this thing. I don't think they're going to go in that direction. I think it's going to be small incremental updates, maybe one big update at some point. But for the most part, it's trying not to throw too much at the car all at once so they can get a better understanding for where it is. They're developing this car in their new wind tunnel. So they're using that now, where last year they weren't. Last year they were still working out of Mercedes's wind tunnel, where now it's a lot different. They're actually they actually are using their state-of-the-art wind tunnel for this car. I highly doubt Adrian Newey is going to take a look at this thing at all. So I don't think
don't
stuff
even waste your time.
Yeah, and like I think like someone asked me, like, is Lawrence Stroll like stomping around at the factory mad or something like a couple of weeks ago? No, he's not. Like, this team understands where they're at. They knew this was going to be a tough season. I said it on this show. Preseason, this car is not good. This is before they even hit the track, Adam. I even said it was going to be a tough year for them. I even said it. So they knew what they were in store for here, okay? Right. Like, they know what's going on. So for Lance in his weekend, the team just had made some very big errors that aren't like this team. Like setting the ride height, different cross weights as well were wrong. Like, it just, I think for the ride height in particular, that's a huge mistake. I can't believe that had happened in setting it where they had set it. The reason they didn't get a grid penalty, or the reason they didn't start from pit lane, which I said on Saturday in the show that I thought that they were going to have to start from pit lane because they were going to have to change the ride height on that car.
Yep.
Was the fact that the FIA allowed them to do it because it was a smaller change.
Right.
And, I think if you start from pit lane in like Suzuka,
mm-hmm.
I think that it is not as bad because the catch-up time, right? Like, you're not, the race starts, you're literally out onto the track, and you're catching up with everybody immediately. Where with Bahrain, the catch up time is a lot more. It's like 5-10 seconds, and by that time your race is already finished anyways. So it doesn't really matter. So it's good that he got to start on the grid. But again, I mean, just showing you like what this car is like, both drivers finishing like whatever it was, what it was like P18, P19. They finished like right beside each other. It just wasn't good. Like it just was a really rough weekend. Oh, sorry, P15, P17.
Right.
Liam
so
Lawson
just simply sucked.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that was. I think that's also probably going to be their worst weekend. So
right. Okay. All right. Well, Tim, we're going to wrap it up there. But listen, it was so nice after Suzuka being so boring to have so much to talk about in this.
Yeah,
race.
It was a good race,
great.
Like,
and we got another one coming up. This is a street circuit. It's narrow, it's tight, and Tim and I will be back on Thursday, including Tim racing in the sim. We're going Tim racing on Thursday. It's going to be lots and lots of fun. We're looking forward to it. So, Tim, have a great weekend. I'll see you Thursday morning.
Thanks, buddy.